Welcome to The Ancient Way. I'm James.
I'm Marlia.
We're going to talk about trauma today.
Hip hip.
Trauma.
Hooray. Bexley and I do that a lot.
Yeah?
I'll say hip hip. She goes, hooray.
Completes it. Yeah, that's it's great.
So,
Octopus. Our last episode was about the octopus, and I think that octopus spirit, I think...
we're going to circle back.
And even like listening to it, I was like, I think there's even more to be opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's an octopus series. Maybe we need 8 episodes. Anyways.
Oh, that's funny.
I was writing out the description when publishing the episode, and I Googled the nature of the octopus. I mean, I know what they do, but I Googled it, and as I was Googling octopus, it auto filled in octopus in the Bible. I clicked it, and it led me to some articles that said, about the octopus spirit. And I went into some of these and read them, and it was the same thing that we've talked about on that episode. And so, like we were saying, is this even a real thing? It's totally a real thing.
Oh, yeah, dude.
To the details,
Uh-huh.
And so, anyways, on one of these articles, there was this demon squid from a popular lore. Anyone's heard of H.P. Lovecraft before? He's an author. And I've heard of him for a long time, and I've just now started to kind of delve into kind of his history. Anyways, a lot of this stuff, this guy had some childhood trauma and stuff like that. He's kind of an outcast, really reclusive, and experienced a lot of trauma, but he's responsible for writing all these novels, and it's almost like a culture of darkness and demons and things like that. Cthulhu is one of the people have probably heard of that before. But something we've been talking about lately is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it? And so the octopus trail has led us to, maybe this is one of his arms, is trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I was listening to, I think people are getting in on our development of this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's been our personal experiences coupled by a lot of personal experiences.
Yeah.
But even just the evolving of how this thing has kind of come about. And I think, our listeners are getting kind of in on the process of it. Well, I was listening to these 2 brilliant men who, they're both scholars. And I don't even think one believes in the supernatural, to be honest. But they were talking about demonology, and they were talking about just demons themselves and like how they're the disembodied spirits of not just the Nephilim, but the Rephaim and like all these different entities, creatures that are not human, but they're disembodied spirits, and so they stay here, but they look for the thing that they thrive in is trauma. Yeah. That's what they said. Like it, and I could see, I'm like, yeah, that is 100% true. Where it's almost just like bees to honey, the way that they flock in.
Yeah.
Because most people, when they have something traumatic happen, it marks them. Yeah. And you think of, well, why else would satanic ritual abuse use trauma?
They initiate the trauma.
They initiate the trauma so that they basically crack the kid open for the adrenochrome, but also not just the adrenochrome, for the possession or for the rewiring or for, Project Mockingbird, or, even our CIA did that to kids. And that's where they load information, but then they close the person back. And so they can actually then trigger them and they can turn into a split person.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyways, but I just think it's so interesting that it's like demons will run after anything traumatic. And you and I were kind of talking about all that, because I was just, when that kind of like clicked, like, well, of course demons are attracted to trauma. Like,
Yeah.
that just makes sense. It's like it gives an open door to them.
Yeah. It is like a door. And it's in relation to, well, when we were talking about trauma, you have these slow where things kind of seep in, and over time you gradually have let something in.
Yeah.
And it's been over years sometimes even.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma is as if like, yeah, someone just busted your door down.
Yeah.
Like against your will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even the language of doors, Jesus knocking at your door.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one that asks for permission.
Yeah.
You know, or that is so humble and gentle. But the door language in trauma is like, yeah, there's no slow burn here. Like, bam.
Yeah, we have an immediate shift.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, you know, you and I have talked about this just from my own experience, and I'm kind of putting all these pieces together based on my experiences.
Yeah.
And how it is kind of biblically. But you can see where things happen to people and they come into an agreement, like with something traumatic, right?
Yeah.
I've had several massive traumatic events that I came into agreement with, I believe, something demonic, and made a partnership to keep me safe. It was a way that, like, I didn't have the resources. I didn't have people surrounding me.
A foundation, anything.
Yeah, nothing to walk me through this.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, this is gaping. What do I do? And if you've got flies that are already around you, it's like, I'm going to cover myself with the quickest thing.
Yep.
Right?
Well.
So I think that's the agreement that you can come into.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the things that you can look at is like, if there are things cyclical in your life, you probably have made an agreement.
Yeah.
And not even known it.
Yeah.
But like if you can't overcome something or it feels like there's a block, I noticed that in my own life.
Yeah.
Right? I kept seeing like, okay, this thing is cyclical and I can't get out of it. And I did a whole lot of psychology.
Yeah.
Trying to figure things out, like my patterns and all this stuff. And finally, you know, I had told you, it wasn't until the Lord broke the agreement that I had that I didn't even know that I had with this specific entity, that once I went through counseling, things just started to open up.
To click up.
Yeah, everything started to click. It made so much sense. I could feel a shift in my person.
Yeah.
And it was like that subconscious agreement was creating the block.
Would you say that counseling is similar to, say somebody has a net over them. This person is assisting you in moving it around or kind of like unraveling you or peeling layers off.
Yeah. I don't think that they
Something
can
you
fully
couldn't do on
it.
your own.
Totally.
They can't fully remove it. It's almost like they can show you and you can agree or you can.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
How much of our lives are, possibly the entire thing, is everything in agreement? Everything we do, everything we are, is it in agreement?
I think so. You know, Zach and I were talking about this, that I think it's kind of brilliant, but like when you make an agreement about something, whatever you just agreed with, you then have an expectation, right? So you can't have an expectation about something unless you've agreed to something. So,
and it costs you usually, there's a sacrifice. It's an exchange.
Yeah.
One thing for another.
Yeah. But even with the Lord, you know, like if you come into an agreement of like, hey, I agree that you are good, that I've seen your goodness.
Yeah.
Now I can expect your goodness because I agreed with that. But if I come into an agreement and say, hey, I don't know if you're good, then I expect him to not be good.
Yeah.
And then you're getting what you're expecting.
Man, my mind's racing on this one. With him, you know, I say with the demonic, you're sacrificing something.
Yeah.
And it's not good. But with him, the only thing you have to sacrifice is what's not him.
Yeah.
Which is false foundations, coping. I mean, really anything, idols, whatever that is.
But the only thing that you have to do is come into agreement with what he's already said.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it shakes everything else out.
Yeah, right.
Like that's the consuming fire that'll burn all the excess out.
Yeah. everything's built on agreement and decisions, covenants. I mean, that's the whole thing. The whole thing is about it,
Yeah.
It's about a covenant.
But if you think about it, that's what Adam and Eve did. Eve came into an agreement that God was withholding.
Yeah.
She believed him. She was like, okay, I agree. I agree that to be true, so I'm going to partake in this action.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
almost like
act on it. Yeah.
But if you look at people's behavior or even your own behavior, you're like, okay, well, what have I agreed with that's causing these behaviors to come out? That's causing these things to manifest.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting, circling all the way back to that octopus spirit.
Yeah.
Like the head of that thing is control.
Yep.
And so it's like if you've come into an agreement with that thing, there are going to be places that you feel like you have to control.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And that the chain reaction of it. It's like the control, but then the arms. I was this morning on my run this morning, Jordan Peterson popped up on my YouTube, which I love listening to him. I haven't listened to him in like months, but he came up and it was about it was about trauma. And he detailed it so articulately. He said, if you've ever had and this is what he said, say you've had an incident, you've passed out in public. He said, once that happens, then you have, oh my God, it could happen again. The fear of passing out, the fear of death. But in addition to, everyone's going to see me pass out. So then there's the fear of society, the embarrassment of it. So next time you go to this particular place, one of the methods that people will step into is, I'm not going to that particular place ever again. But anyways, they'll go to this place, and then the memory will come in.
Yeah.
And then they'll latch onto it and say, "Yep, this happened here." And then their heart starts beating faster, and then they become conscious of, "Oh, now my heart's beating faster." Next thing you know, you've worked yourself into the same thing.
You're reliving your experience.
Yeah, you're reliving it, but it's just like a domino effect. But he articulated it really well. But then the solution is, how do you do that? How do you navigate something like that? And what he was saying, which is all psychology, I think it's in the right direction. The wholeness of it would be enveloped. It would be with the Lord in it.
Totally.
And it's the core of everything. But what he said is like, face it safely and gradually. Face the fears. Be exposed to it like little by little.
Totally.
And I think that's it. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And if something scares you, even if it's little, like just go face it. Anyways, it was an interesting and timely YouTube video that popped up.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of have I shared on here about the Blue Hornet thing for me? I don't remember.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
Good. Well, you said the little by little, and it triggered a thought that I have been having physical Blue Hornets.
Okay, yes.
In my spheres. And it's like this Blue Hornet came up, was surrounding, like literally circling this grasshopper. And I heard the Lord start speaking to me about, I will send the hornet before you, and I will drive them out little by little, lest they overtake you.
Yep.
And then I was in a really important meeting, and a freaking hornet landed on my left leg, and it was just in the midst of this. I was like, that's bizarre that this thing is sitting with me. And I'd already been, from that first event, really sitting in those scriptures about that. And one of the things just about the trauma and facing it little by little, I always had focused on the Lord removing something little by little, like the things that pained you, the trauma that pained you, the whatever. But he flipped the script on me, and he was like, I am moving you into your inheritance little by little. And it's the flip of the mind, where oftentimes with trauma, we perceive everything through a negative lens. Yeah. And it has reversed our mind. And then for the Lord to put those lenses on me, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's similar to sin consciousness.
I think
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the demonic realm plays into our mind like that.
Yeah.
If they can get us thinking reversed.
Yep.
If they can get us thinking in the negative, in the lack mentality, in the control mentality.
Yeah.
Just the fear of something.
Mm-hmm.
We play small.
Yeah.
And we shrink back, not realizing that he's trying to move us forward into our inheritance, into who we are. And I just think it's we'll call it the octopus games. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Squid Game.
The Squid
Isn't
Games.
that a show? Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
It's a show. Oh, man. Let me tell you what sorry, you brought up that and I said squid. There's a famous quote in the movie, and I had to look it up to see what the context was. There's a famous quote in the movie, and I almost put this on the end of the description for the last episode. In the movie, it's an old movie. Here's looking at you, kid, is the line. You better believe, as soon as I'm writing this description, I almost put, here's looking at you, squid, on the end of it. Like,
you
James,
should
stop
have.
it.
You should have. That's a good quote.
I know it. Clever. Dad humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think the whole trauma thing is interesting.
Yeah.
And especially in the context of this octopus, right? Like using that as kind of the filter of things.
Yeah.
When something traumatic really happens, I can so see how people would step into an agreement with that octopus.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they find their way to hide in tiny places. And they'll hide from predators.
Yeah.
They'll change the shape of their body.
Yep.
They'll try and fit into the tiniest places.
Yeah. They like expel that ink stuff too, which is just black. It's just darkness. And I think it's a deterrent.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another thing they do.
Yeah. It's like,
and it's almost like when the door gets busted down, if you don't have a foundation, a grid, support, whatever that is, that octopus is like there, like waiting open arms for you. Yeah. It's like, here, take me.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
I think so too.
Is that they take on that. Right. Because I said it in the last episode, which I thought was funny that we recorded this so many weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because I'd still been sitting on the whole, you don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities.
Yeah.
So I had this thought, because I had talked to you about one of the things that the Lord told me was that I was being like Peter.
Yeah.
And that Satan had actually asked for permission to come and sift me.
Yeah.
And because I've said this on this podcast before, but back in February, I had a dream where the Lord told me to study the life of Job. Well, lo and behold, my life has literally been the life of Job this year.
Yeah.
But here recently, the Lord said, Satan asked for permission to sift you. And I'm going to use it for your promotion.
Yep.
But it was so interesting because in this sifting that has happened and in this drama that has played out, I could go back and see how much my heart had shifted.
Yeah.
How much love I could have for these people that have unintentionally created a shitstorm.
Yeah. Right.
That's not to speak negative about them at all. It's just like this.
It happens.
Yeah. But it was one of those, I felt an honor about it. I was like, oh, okay. Like this thing is happening for me. But one of the things that I saw was, but one of the things that the Lord has been teaching me that he even told me was that Satan asked to sift me. And in this sifting, I've been able to see how much I've grown and how much I've shifted. And my heart towards people is actually like, I'm for them. I'm not against them. And one of the things that I saw was that these demonic entities are looking for you to agree.
Yeah.
They're looking for you to bite and devour your brethren.
Yeah.
They're looking to hold you back and stuff. And it's like if you can recognize that you're not against your brother, you're against these things that are holding them back.
Yeah.
You can relate to them differently, but then you're starting to operate behind the scenes in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Like you start to operate where you pray for understanding and you actually bind things behind the scenes. And
Huh. Well, there's a careful navigation of that too. Like whenever something like that flares up, the maturity of agreeing with the Lord and how you respond to it
Yes.
as well. Because it reminds me of that scripture, like what is it? Darkness can't be cast out by darkness.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then even like, it's almost like the demon or whatever it is, that spirit of like, here, react this way.
Yeah.
It has open arms. And it's like the problem is being caused by the darkness, and then the darkness is here to offer a solution to you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the system. It's like, here's a bunch of awful fast food, and here's the medical system. Here's you a problem. Here, I'll be the solution too. And here you're stuck in this cycle.
Yeah.
It's along the same things, it sounds like.
Totally. One of the things too, this triggered another thought that I had, was one of the things I've seen about this whole thing where I really wholeheartedly believe that the Lord gave Satan permission to sift me.
Yeah.
Is that the Lord allowed it. The fire came close so things could come forth, but it's actually to sever that.
Yeah.
And I think it's to sever the agreements of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should share this story or not. You tell me yes or no. What do you think? You don't know what it is. That's why I'm asking.
If it's, you're responsible if you share it. There's a responsibility in what you share, which this, protecting people.
Well, it was a pretty intense encounter I had. Okay, so I'll say it. So this is going to be very strange, but back in 2010, no, it was 2011. It was February of 2011. I had Peter come to me. I had a very intense lesson from him, in which he actually taught me about the sifting. He taught me about that period of time.
Yeah.
When he denied the Lord 3 times. And the things that he told me in that, they've stuck with me, and I didn't understand most of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now I do. Now I understand so much of what he had told me way back then.
Yeah.
And which I think is interesting that it's been 12 years, side note.
Oh, yeah. Numbers, man.
Yeah. Just because the dream that I had with all the 12s. Anyways, but in that encounter, he looked at me dead in the eyes, and he was like, you never forget the hope that you're called to. Never forget the hope that we declare. And it was just this like channeling of like, we are the messengers of hope, period.
An impartation to you.
Yes. And I realized in the sifting of these things, in the drama of these things, that's what I go back to. It's like, okay, well, what's the hope?
Yeah.
What is hopeful about this?
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm declaring. That's what I want to embody. Even when I've been in the wrong about stuff, that's been like my compass. It's like, if it's not rooted in hope, I'm out,
right.
Because hope is love, I think. Like you can't have hope without love.
Yeah.
Without having this foundation of that. But anyways.
Yeah. Hope is like a thankfulness for the future. It's like, what's at the end of this? What am I extracting from this?
I love that, like, hope, I've heard be described as expectation.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, if you're hoping and being the message of hope, then you showcase the expectation that God is going to be here.
Yeah.
He's in our midst. He is with us.
Yeah.
He is altogether good and lovely, and he's for you.
Yeah. Like he will be exalted through this, and I am agreeing with that.
Yes.
I choose to agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because in the exalting of him, for people who deal a lot with self-hatred, right?
Yeah.
There's this thing about like, well, yeah, God's exalted, but what about me? It's still that very much the fear of like, I'm going to be left out. I'm not going to be, because you already hate yourself, so you've disqualified yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty about God, and people like navigating the self-hatred is like Ephesians 2:6, but you've been seated in the heavenly places. You've been seated with him.
Yeah.
And so if the glory of the Lord is being revealed, the glory of of him is going to be revealed within you, which is going to be your more and your true person, because that's really who you are. You are the imager of him.
Yeah.
And so you'll come back into your right mind, and it's going to feel like you're being elevated.
Yep.
And that's not in a conceited, that's the confidence of just like, we're more than conquerors. I have a mind that I am in him and he's in me and he is for me. And
yeah,
you know,
he wants us to be confident too. Yeah.
Yeah. I could just feel, it was almost like a thought that came through my mind when you were saying that about like, well, the glory of the Lord. And like, I just heard that that sounds weird, but I did. I felt like that was like an outside thought that came through of like, well, what about me?
Yeah.
And I think that what about me is rooted in self-hatred.
Yeah.
I think that's like I'm overlooked. I'm going to be overshadowed. I'm not going to be valuable. I am weak. I am little. I am small. Like all of those lies play in, especially in that religious language of like, I heard somebody say that today. They were like, oh, all be glory to the God, or all glory be to God. You know, like that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something too. It's like I exist, but it's almost like, I'll give him the glory and I'll just disappear into nothing. I'm meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, you're this special thing too. But
yes,
there's something there. That needs to be something we crack open.
Yeah. I just think
at some point.
Yeah. Well, I just want to hit on something real quick on that. Is just like a question that I have asked in the past is, what is so wrong about you being so confident in who you are in the Lord?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but even just saying like, I have this and I do this and these are my gifts and these are my calling, and I've said this before, but I think it's true. Like in refereeing, they always say it's easier to pull somebody back from overblowing your whistle than to get people started blowing their whistle.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that the same is true. Like the Lord course corrects people who are running. Yeah. Way easier than to get somebody to start running.
Yeah. That's right. Like, interesting.
I mean, there is that Newton's law of thermodynamics or something like that. I'm kidding. I don't know what it was called. Yeah. But no, that theory that an object in motion stays in motion while an object at rest stays at rest. Uh-huh. I think that's a spiritual principle.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, because everything here is a shadow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that principle of like an object in motion, it's easier if you are gunning after confidence and who cares if you're arrogant, to be honest.
Yeah. Or what it's perceived as arrogance. Mm-hmm. That's an exercise, I think, if anyone's listening to this, proclaim something that's true about you over yourself, an aspect of the Lord that you have and you hold and you display. Yeah. I had one yesterday, and it's hard too. It's kind of like peeing in the swimming pool. I'm going to use that analogy from now on.
That's a good one.
Monday, this guy told me, it's funny. He said, maybe you'll be the mayor one day. And I said, no, I'm too honest. And I mean it. I was like, I'm an honest character, I think. Mm-hmm. I believe. And he said, yeah, you're right. You wouldn't make it. It's like, good. I'd rather be honest than be anything. But it's just like, I will say that stuff. Or like in the grocery store, like I've said before, I'm patient. Yeah. I will say that. And I mean it. And I am in those situations. Maybe not other things. But when it's true, it's true.
Totally.
And I hope it doesn't come off as arrogant. I hope it comes off as just honest.
But if you're connected to the Lord, it can't come off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you live and abide in him, if somebody thinks that you're being a certain way, that's probably more about their filter than it is about you standing in who you are.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe it's not about fixing other people's filters of you.
No, their perceptions. Yeah, there's a difference in truth and what's true and then what's perceived. Mm-hmm. That's an episode, I think.
Dude, we have so many coming into.
I know it. This one we're just talking about, what's true and what's a perception. I want to spend some prayer, meditation, running time on that.
Let's do it.
And bring that one in. But like,
that's real, man.
Yeah. But it helps me when I say I'm honest and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty honest. I strive to be anyways. Mm-hmm. And so that's something, if you are listening to this and you hold an aspect of God or a nature like that, admit it to yourself and then speak it over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If the opportunity shows up, yeah, I am an honest person. You know? Yeah, I do. I have integrity,
Yeah.
you know? That kind of stuff. So, or I have courage. Like, I am courageous. I did this. Yeah, good job, buddy. You good job.
Did do that.
And yeah, you did do that. And demonstrate it for other people. So, oh man, I had something else too. Oh, do you have something now?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just thought it was interesting. No, I heard this quote, and it says, if you keep pruning back a plant, you just make it stronger.
That makes sense.
But I thought it was interesting. They were talking in context of like when you're dieting or you're like trying to change your body composure or whatever. When you basically have a bad plant, but you keep trying to cut it back, like you keep trying to diet to fix this thing, it's really not going to make it go away.
Yeah.
It's just going to make it stronger.
Okay.
So they were talking about like why you have to find the why behind your bad habits.
Yeah.
Like, why do you eat or whatever? But in context of all of this, I think it's interesting to go into why do I have a hard time declaring the great things that God has said about me?
Yeah.
You know, if that's a struggle for you,
right.
or like the why would I not do this?
Yeah.
And kind of when you go in a little bit deeper behind it, then you can start to prune back that stuff to make it stronger.
Yeah.
That's when you can trim off like the limiting beliefs in it.
Yeah.
So that when it grows back, it's going to grow back stronger.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, speaking of, we had this crazy storm.
Oh, yeah.
Come through. And I definitely felt like it was prophetic, to be honest. I felt like it was from not the
destruction
storm.
of it, yeah.
Well, that was one thing I kept praying. I prayed that the destruction would be like drained out of it.
Yeah. Oh, it was pretty though. Well, before it swooped in.
Yeah.
It was. I saw that. You go first. I'll tell you about the cloud. Go ahead.
The whole thing destroyed our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Completely destroyed it. Like 100-year-old oak tree snapped in half.
Yeah.
Like literally cut off the top and all of the branches are down. And
it's crazy.
It's everywhere in ours. But it was so cool because we had a small tree that snapped, and then we had another tree that snapped. But then we had a massive, massive branch that was hanging over my car.
Yeah.
That snapped. But it just so happened that the wind was so strong that it moved this massive branch into our front yard. So it never touched my car.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, because it was Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Because I asked the Lord about it. It was like, oh yeah, there's so many dead branches, things that are not even strong.
Yeah.
That are being removed so that when these other things grow back, it's going to grow back stronger.
Yeah.
But anyways, what were you saying about your cloud?
Well, a few things. One thing, since maybe it's because I moved here, I've noticed it. Trees fall over when you touch them here. I mean, all over the place. A storm comes through, and I'm like, has it always been this way where trees just topple over everywhere? Really? Because I mean, where I'm from, when a tree falls over, it's kind of a rare occasion.
Yeah.
It's like once in a blue moon. I saw a massive tree fall when I was running one day. I saw it. Yeah, it was at Brownsboro at that track.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it just kind of move. I heard it. That's what it was. I heard it first, and I was like, oh, that tree's about to fall, and I just watched it. I've got a picture of it. I tried to get a video. But here in Tyler, past 2 years, you blow on a tree, it's gone. It's totaled.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't know why. I don't know if maybe it's normal. I've just been under a rock. But that cloud, I see, whenever I do my runs and stuff, sometimes the sky is like super pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely do I stop to take a picture of it. But this one I was running and I saw that cloud. It looked like a funnel looking ice cream thing.
It's on the Instagram.
Yeah.
For everybody who wants to go creep and
Signs
follow
and
us.
Wonders.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
It's on the Signs and Wonders. I grabbed that picture and put it up there for the Bobby Connor deal.
Oh yeah. It's the exact same colors that I've seen when it comes to Signs and Wonders. But what was cool is the lightning was inside of the cloud and it would light the whole cloud up. I didn't get that on video, but I saw it and I was like, this will be worth it. So I stopped and videoed it till I saw a little bit of lightning.
So cool.
Yeah. Lastly, going way, 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 way back.
We've been a little all over the place. I like it.
Yeah, it's been good though. I think it's been a meaty episode. But going back to the sifting thing, the final, we consider it a final exam. I think what we talked about.
Yeah.
Because even like you said with Job, it's like Satan asks for permission to sift you. And God's like, yeah, do it. You're going to find faithfulness when you do that.
Yeah.
And the devil, Satan, which that'll be episode, is probably like, this is make or break. And if I can get him, I've got, I win. But the Lord's like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You go ahead. They're to the point. You'll find out. So when that stuff happens and it's just like everything's exploding around you, gunshots and arrows and all of it, just know, hey, maybe this is the final exam.
Yeah.
And it's even like the Jordan Peterson stuff I was talking about, when you face things with hope, like voluntarily facing things. And when it's with the Lord, you have that. That's your foundation. You know, you hope in him and the glory and stuff like that. Like you can navigate it. You can walk right straight on into it.
Totally.
Because you know what's there. You know what's to be extracted from it. And everyone gets touched by it, even if they're firing arrows at you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. And then what do you graduate into? What's next?
It's the double portion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, who knows?
No. What Job get? He got back double of everything?
Oh, yeah, he got back, all sorts of everything.
I think that's the purpose of that stuff, though.
And even Job, in the middle of it's like, sad and all that stuff, understandably so.
Yeah,
but he was still
had
faithful.
Big feels.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
I think that's
and some
beautiful.
big stuff happened to him. It is. It's honest.
It's so honest.
But he was faithful,
Because it's not about the emotion that you have. It's about how you navigate through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's profound, man.
It is.
All right, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. I really suck at ending stuff. Whether it's meeting somebody for the first time and like you're done, it's always awkward silence with me.
I wait for a good lull and I'm like, all right, see you later.
Yeah. I've gotten to where I was like, oh, all right, bye. Sometimes. So, anyways.
All
this is
right,
the end.
bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Ancient Way podcast, drop us a like, share with your friends, share with your family. And if you'd like to support us and what we are doing, and you would like to play a direct role in our growth and things that we do in the future,
we have a donation spot at the bottom of our show notes. So you can click on that, give however much you want. We appreciate absolutely everything. We appreciate our listeners. And everybody that's already come alongside and encouraged us, and even everybody that's been on our show. So thanks, guys.